Welcome to the Lifestwists Show with your hosts, Terry Robinson, Lance Conley, and Eric Harrison.
How's everybody doing tonight? First, I want to wish everyone a happy and prosperous New Year. I hope you had a great holiday. I hope you had an opportunity to be with your family and friends. I hope you, really got all the stuff that you wanted for Christmas. And all that good stuff. But now we're back, and we're ready to go in 2017, and we have a lot of things to talk to you about tonight. So I am not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guys, my friends, my colleagues, my partners in crime. First and foremost, my man Lance Conley. Lance is man. He's always on top of it. He has a great insight. And I really appreciate him. Hey, Lance, how you doing?
Good, Eric. And I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and it's nice to be back this week.
Yep. And then last but not least, of course, like I said, the man, the myth, the legend, Terry Robinson. You know, he's a great author, great counselor, and most of all, a great friend of mine. What's going on, T?
Not too much, Eric. How you doing, man?
Good.
Good, and you too, Lance.
We're going to get started. Yep, we're going to get started. And like I said, we got a lot to talk about. So, Terry, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, man, and you just take it wherever you want to go. Because just before the show, we've come up with a lot of topics, and you guys are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, first thing I want to talk about is this Grayson Allen from Duke. I've been following him the last few weeks. And not a knock against them. It's typical of what we've been talking about when we talk about athlete transition stress. I saw the kid, with his behavior, but I'm always looking for what's behind the behavior, and how do you support any kid in this situation or a young person? Because I think that's what he needs more than anything. And his behavior is saying, look, I need some help. I done hit a wall. I don't know what to do. I'm frustrated, and I really think. With the tripping incidents, for those people that don't know what we're talking about, as a kid was an McDonald's All-American basketball player, went to Duke University. He actually was a heck of an athlete, and he's in his junior year, and he's starting to have these meltdowns, and it's kind of like what's going on with this kid? You see him sitting on the bench just having tantrums, and it's like, hey. If I had to identify what age those tantrums look like, it would look like a 5-year-old. So that tells me something just from my counseling background that this kid has really experienced some kind of trauma, because when he loses it, he loses it. And at a university like Duke, and where the bar is set really high, and so I think it's all based on the stress that this kid is experiencing right now. He came out this year. He's supposed to be the ACC Player of the Year, all second team All-American. He's playing at Duke. He's looking at all his teammates coming in, going one and done. He's still here after 3 years. I wonder if all these things are taking an effect on this kid, where he's just feeling a tremendous amount of pressure and don't know how to react to it. That's how I see it. So I'm not speaking ill of him. I'm just looking at his behavior and saying, man, this is exactly what we talk about on a weekly basis. How do we prevent these kind of things? How do we address it? Can we be proactive when it comes to this kind of stuff? And the answer I think that we can. We're not going to be able to save everybody in this situation because it's just not possible. But there are some people that we can get to before they get to this point. Because if he continues to act out like this, how is that going to affect him moving forward?
So you kind of feel like, you feel like he's kind of putting a lot of pressure on himself. That's kind of affecting his behaviors as far as on the basketball court. Because I remember when he came into Duke, and man, his first Final Four, man, he was tearing it up. He kind of came on kind of strong his freshman year. And you're right. Now that he's a junior, I'm sure there's a lot more pressure. He's kind of the leader of the team. Has expectations of, when you're at Duke, your expectation is to win an ACC championship and compete for a national championship. And then plus, you put on there the NBA, trying to look good in front of the scouts and stuff like that. I'm sure he's, a lot of his behaviors are starting to show, and the pressure's probably coming out more than anything. And hopefully it's up to the coach to be able to control that a little bit. But yeah, you're right. That was pretty childish behavior that we've seen out of the 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid this past couple of weeks.
Yeah, but we can only do what we know how to do. When we put under them circumstances, we act out. I mean, I hate to say it, but I've been in that situation too. I've been in those shoes. I wasn't at Duke, but I was at another school, and I acted that way. And and I'm looking at him like, wow, here it is. And how do we reach back and help this guy? Because they let him slide through too the first couple of times. And you say, okay, then nothing really happened, and now all of a sudden he gets a 5-game suspension. And he's supposed to be All-American. I mean, is he going to screw up his chances? Possibly, possibly. But more deeper than that is what's behind his behavior. Because I don't know what his childhood was like, but I can almost see what it was probably like. This kid was probably, under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure, and his way of dealing with it was through basketball. Working his butt off, working as hard as he can to become accepted, to become acknowledged. And he's done all these things, but he put those issues on the shelf. And now, when you put under this tremendous amount of pressure, they're starting to seek out, and it doesn't look good for him. And I wonder, does this kid have a drinking problem? Is he doing anything else? How does he manage these emotions when he's not playing basketball? Because that's the other piece of it. Because I think when athletes transition no longer playing, the thing that helps us to get through negative emotions is playing sports. And when you don't have that, how do you manage that? What are you using as a substitute? I'm not saying that he's doing anything illegal, but I'm just wondering, what is he doing? Is he meeting with the Duke psychiatrist, psychologist, a counselor, or what? Who's helping him to work through this? And I'm sure they have the resources to do that. But sometimes, they just look at it as, hey, we got to keep going. We're in the season, and we'll pick up the pieces afterwards. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I just think that his behavior is speaking volumes, and he's not the only one. Unfortunately, he's in the national spotlight, so we can see him. But what about all the other kids, the kids that were like me, or the kids that didn't even make it to college and did in the high school? Because I saw meltdowns in high school and so forth. So what happens to all these individuals? What do they do to manage? What do they do? I feel very fortunate. I ended up falling into a counseling agency, calling myself helping other people. But as I worked through those processes, I started figuring out, man, this is where I need to be too. I'm getting just as much out of these sessions as these kids that I'm supposed to be helping. But I would have had no idea if I wouldn't have found myself in a counseling agency.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good point.
Wow.
That's a great point because you just think about, how's he going to make the transition out of the suspension? It'll be good for people to observe and kind of watch because really it's probably a test for him. We'll really see how the Duke coaching staff and the personnel of the university, handle this situation. Like you said, is it to the point where his behaviors and obviously on the court have not only hurt himself but the team and the university, and what kind of resources they put around this kid to address that and to see how he actually responds to that. Because I think it will eventually be a kid that goes to the next level, whether it's in the NBA or the CBA or overseas. And you're right. To me, I just imagine that 8-year-old kid on the basketball court that scores 30 points, but he comes off the court and his dad asks him about the 2 or 3 baskets that he missed. You know what I mean? It's just he doesn't accept adversity in a positive manner, and he's obviously that's a learned behavior, and you learn that somewhere. So I think that's exactly what the show is about, is behaviors, and a lot of times behaviors are learned, and we a lot of times learn those through how adults talk to us, how coaches handle it, and by watching other people. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how he makes that transition back on the court and to see if his behaviors change and how they change.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I think that by him being disciplined in the way that he is, and also being disciplined in the public eye, I think that that's going to definitely send a message. But then I'm also going with what Terry said, which is, okay, now this kid's done this. He's been punished for it. I'd like to know what the follow-up is. Guys, before I go any further, we have a caller on the line, and he's an old friend of the show, Brian Brown. He's decided to join us tonight. What's up, Brian? How you feeling, man?
It's not Brian Brown, it's Brian Jones.
Oh, Brian Jones. My fault. Man, I thought this was anyway. Whatever.
Oh,
forget it, man. This is Brian Jones. My bad. Hey, I thought it was another Drake dude. My fault. All Drake dudes are alike. What's up, Brian, man? What's up, B? How you feeling, man?
Not much, man. Sorry to disappoint you, man. But thanks.
Hey, man, have you been listening to the show, though? Have you been listening to our topic?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my only if you guys don't mind, my I may have a little bit of different perspective on it. I think it's absolutely he's been put into a public eye. He's learned he's getting disciplined in a public eye. But I think to Terry's point before, how do you discipline those that are maybe not, or better yet, should there be more of a focus on getting in front of that versus waiting until something happens, right? So if you think about a Duke program, you think about some of these major programs, how could they have gotten ahead of that before it happened, right? Or how do they assess that before they bring someone onto a team of that standard, or any team for that matter? If you think about the NFL, they go through psychological tests as well as physical tests before they can join a team. Why is that not the same thing in basketball or football on the college level?
I think a lot of it comes down to money. You know what I mean? Money, resources, and I'm sure Duke probably has it, but I think when it comes to those NFL teams and NBA teams, I mean, they have tons of money specifically for those people. So I think that's what it comes down to.
But if you think about it now, think about in this situation where Duke has kind of gotten a little black eye, right? So how much is that money that they could have spent up front to know what they're bringing to their organization or to their campus versus on the back end? Now they're trying to play trying to clean it up and keep their name good as well. But it is a money thing. But again, to him,
I think he probably was somebody that slid through the cracks. Because Duke, it's kind of hard to get through them cracks, and I think he was so good athletically that he slid through the cracks. Because based on what I know in terms of psychiatry and psychology, this psychology, not psychiatry, but psychology is, the first 1 to 3 years or 1 to 7 years of your life dictate the rest of your life, And so who knows what took place in this kid's life before during those formative years. And sometimes it's even when you're in the womb. If the parent is experiencing a lot of stress, this is how I learned how to deal with the world too, even when you're not even out of the womb. And so if you come out of the womb and you into the world and you come into a stressful situation, you learn how to deal with the world the way, those kind of behaviors that you're seeing this kid. I don't want to say, I don't want to act like I'm playing psychologist or I'm trying to, decide what happened to this kid. But I would put money on it that there were some things going on early in this kid's life, and that's why he developed like he did as an athlete, because it was a great escape for him. I mean, it's his medication. And now all of a sudden, or his meditation, now all of a sudden it's not working. It's not giving him the shot that he needs right now for whatever reason, the pressure or the stress, and now he's reacting to it, which doesn't look good to the public or the university. But at the same time, this young man is screaming out saying, look, I need some help. There's something going on with me. I need some resources. I need some help. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, because you're talking more about his antics on the sideline, where he's almost going into a temper tantrum. Like everybody's, man, what's this guy doing? Like, is he all right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I'm sure shocked everybody. Everybody was watching that, going, "Oh my gosh!" And Brian, you do make a point. Is college basketball, or college football, it's a money business that actually has. I mean, it's almost like it's big money, and a lot of these universities should have the resources for these kids that come into the institution, because there is a lot of pressure. Can you imagine being 18, 19 years old and the expectations that everybody else has for that kid? I mean, try to remember back when you were 18, 19, and Duke is one of those elite colleges that, you're expected to score, in his case, a lot of points, expected to go see ACC championship and stuff like that. And man, that guy almost had like a meltdown on the sideline. And again, what are they going to do for this kid moving forward?
Yeah, you see him on the bench dressed in his sweats or clothes. They just kind of sitting there. But what's going on with this kid emotionally and mentally? Because now he's not even playing basketball. This is his outlet. This is his stress reliever. Now he's not even playing. 5-game suspension. So what's going through his mind? Because I'm sure he probably doesn't even realize why he's doing what he's doing. All he knows is that he's frustrated, he's stressed. He's probably thinking, well, I'm not getting the looks that I want or whatever. That's how he's looking at it. But it's something much more deeper than that, which is the point that I'm trying to get to. There's life after basketball, and there was life before basketball. And so I think we need to have a better understanding of what's going on with all of us as individuals. I remember when I was doing that, nobody ever approached me and said, man, you probably need to go see somebody. We need to send somebody from the school to talk to you or whatever. Nothing ever happened. I just went on and kept doing whatever I was doing. Went to class, went to school, went back to the practice, went back to the games. Nothing. And then after it's over, go ahead. After it's over, I'm left with all these emotions. I'm left with all these emotions, don't know what to do with them. Checking out. I'm like, man, what's going on with me? What's actually going on with me? Well, you don't have basketball. Like, basketball was an outlet for you. Now you don't have it no more. What do you turn to? I became a workaholic. I worked 80, 90 hours a week if I could. And there was other athletes that were right along with me doing the exact same thing. That's what we did. We escaped into work. Some of us had some little drinking problems, but for the most part, we were workaholics. So I'll take that, but at the same time, I had to get to a point where I said, okay, something's just not right. When you start going to the doctor and you start getting diagnoses for different stuff, hypertension and this kind of stuff, you're trying to figure it out. Like, where did this come from? Well, I've been carrying around a lot of stress. When I lost that outlet, I didn't replace it with nothing that was healthy for me. And so because there's the internal and the external when we handle stress. You have some people that don't act out. In this case, we had Grayson Allen act out in that type of manner. But then we have the people that internally, that's where like the depression and stuff like that and medical conditions kind of happen. It kind of relates to, Phil Henderson from Duke. He was 44 years old. And, you never heard of him really acting out on the basketball court. But at 44 years old, he passes away from a heart attack. You know what I mean? And again, I think it takes that point where, stress happens in many different ways and people handle it differently. And, and no matter how you handle it, in Phil Henderson's way, it can be devastating. My gosh, 44 years old, over in the Philippines, coaching or youth basketball. And what's your guys' thoughts on Phil's situation? I know we talked a little bit about it before, but that's just the complete opposite of. When I first looked at that article, the first thing I thought about, because I actually came out the same year he did, in the Chicago area, and he was McDonald's All-American. He and Nick Anderson that year, and when I read the article, I listened. It was him and Kendall Gill were real close because they were like rivalries. And Kendall Gill spoke highly of him, said if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been the player that I was. But, Phil Henderson went to Duke. He's another Duke guy, and he played well at Duke. But for some reason, and I didn't know this, he had made plans to transfer to Illinois. And during that summer, they ended up talking him back into going back to Duke. Now, I don't know what was going on, but usually when you want to transfer and it's coming from a place like Duke, there's something going on. And then you see your friends over here thriving at the University of Illinois, so they're like, man, you need to come join us so we can get this championship. And he didn't. And so as a result of staying at Duke, he still played and did well, went to Final Fours and everything, but he ended up being a 49th draft pick. And you saw Kendall Gill went high because Kendall Gill ended up playing 15 years in the league, and he wasn't a McDonald All-American. And so then he doesn't make the NBA. Then he goes and plays in the CBA, and then he goes and play in Mexico and Belgium, for I don't know how many years, couple of years, because I think they say he retired in like 94. He graduated in 90. So basketball didn't work for him. And then the thing that stood out to me was he moved to the Philippines. I'm thinking, like, why did he move all the way up to the Philippines? But if you think about it, that's what we do. We don't want to face nobody. So he left the whole country and moved to the Philippines.
Right, because he was embarrassed. Yeah, he was embarrassed.
Exactly.
He was embarrassed. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, guys, before we go any further, I got another call on the line, man. The line is hot tonight, so we got another caller, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you, Terry, because you know this guy very well. So, hey, caller, why don't you introduce yourself and say what's up to the crew?
How you guys doing? Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing, Terry? This is Gerald from It's a G Thing in Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh, man, how you doing? I'm so glad you called in. Yeah.
Hey, Brian's on the line, too. Brian's on the line, too, G. So Brian's on the line, and then also our partner, Lance. So I don't think you had an opportunity to meet Lance.
How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So just to catch you up, you've probably been listening already, but one of the things that we're talking about, G, we're really talking about the effects and the pressures that sports puts on these athletes, especially at these high-level programs. And it's funny, but both of these guys that we're talking about is from Duke. We talked about one young man who's Grayson Allen. He's actually on indefinite suspension. And while he's been playing in games at Duke, over his career, he's done all kind of crazy stuff while he was playing, like tripping people and doing stuff like that and just having temper tantrums on the sideline. And, just it seems like the pressure of everything that's been going on has really made him act out of character. And then the second guy we've been talking about is a guy that's near and dear to me and Terry. He came from the Chicagoland area. His name is Phil Henderson. And he was a Duke player. And he was an All-American out of high school, but wound up, not making it big in the pros and then actually dying very early on in his life. I mean, he died. How old was he about, T, when he passed away? Terry,
44.
How old was he?
44.
He was only 44 years old. Yeah, and we're just talking about just these pressures that these guys are having on them. So, I mean, G, I'm going to let you just jump right in, man, because I think you have an insight on this as well because, like I said, we put so much into sports that I think all the stuff that we put on sports as a society actually translates into pressure and stress on the actual athletes that participate in them. So what do you think about that,
Definitely.
G?
No, I totally agree. I was listening and you guys were talking about the brother actually moving to the Philippines. And, all of that is a part of the fight and flight, fight or flight. And, he didn't want to actually fight the embarrassment of not being what people anticipated he would become. So he chose to run. And, in reading Terry's book, like I said to Terry before when we had the interview, the fact that an individual, you have to transition. And a lot of us, we don't realize that we're not transitioning. In our 40s, we're still running around, living yesterday's dream. I could still play basketball. I could still run track. I'm one of the fittest guys in the gym, when in reality, our bodies are telling us something different. But psychologically, we're still stuck in that transition, and we haven't transitioned. So, I don't know how the brother died, but more than likely it probably was something like a heart attack. Probably
exactly
pushing
what it
his
was.
body.
Exactly what it was. Exactly.
Pushing his body beyond its limit because he hasn't transitioned to realize that you can't do the things that you once did in the past. So as a result, psychologically, you're telling yourself, I can do it, and your body's telling you something different, and you're not listening. So, I mean, it's complicated, and, we see that everywhere. I mean, like Terry and I were talking about Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins. These guys are still trying to fight. Roy Jones, not Roy, but Bernard Hopkins had a press conference talking about the guy pushed him out of the ring, where if you look at the replay, yeah, he pushed you out of the rings, but it was with punches.
Right.
Every punch pushed you a little further out of the ring until the punch actually knocked you out of the ring. But him watching that footage, he's saying that no, he's seeing something different because psychologically he's still in a space that I can compete, that I'm still one of the best in the world. Once upon a time, I was at the top of my game, and I'm still there. And actually visually seeing himself being knocked out of the ring, he's subconsciously telling himself that he was pushed when the world sees that he was knocked out of the ring.
Yeah, that denial is real. It's not just a river. It's real. It'll make you not see what you're supposed to see. It's real.
Exactly. You know what? And you know what, T? This rolls right into the Ronda Rousey thing. We was going to talk about that tonight, too. It's funny, G, you brought that up. But it's the same thing with her, man. I mean, it's like, the delusion that you think you could still compete at that high level, but you're not, but then you're really not ready for it, right, T? I mean, that denial, right?
Exactly. And then, you have these outside pressures, too, telling her, you can do it. They stand to make money off her, too. And she's listening to them, like G said. She's not listening to her body. And she's like, I can do it. And they say, we're going to pay you this money. You can do it. They did the same thing to Muhammad Ali. I mean, it's everybody's benefiting off these individuals. And we don't realize that we're running. What are we running for? Or who are we really fighting? You think you're fighting that opponent across from you, but you're really fighting yourself. What are you still fighting for? Why are you still fighting? Who are you fighting and why? That's the question. And I think a lot of people will struggle with that because you hit a soft spot and you hurt people. Like this book that I wrote, man, I think a lot of people pick that up, man. They put it down. So they start. Because in order to read it, you got to deal with yourself. And if you're not ready to deal with yourself, you can't. You're not going to be able to pick it. You're not going to be able to deal with it. You're not going to be able to deal with it because you have to face reality. You have to get that denial has to go away. In order to get healed and to get healthy, you have to face yourself. And, man, we live in a country where we just do not want to do that. I would do anything. I'll move to the Philippines. I'll do anything so that I don't have to deal with it. Wow. I did it. I stayed in Iowa. I stayed in Iowa for 30 years. I had to be forced out of Iowa to leave. And I came to Chicago. People say, how did you stay there? I don't know, but out of embarrassment, out of not wanting to face people, face reality, that's why. I can say that today, but I couldn't say that 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Wow, that's powerful, man. Listen, we're going to pay a couple of bills right now. This is a great place to stop. Callers, are you guys able to stay with us a little bit longer? Because you guys have an excellent perspective that we want to go ahead and keep sharing with the people. Can you guys stay with us a little longer?
Just a little bit longer.
Yes, I'm available.
Okay. So listen, we're going to go ahead and pay a few bills right now, and we'll be right back.
Sports is a common denominator in the lives of people everywhere. Our celebration of sports creates an environment that gives athletes an amazing experience that enhances their lives. Athletes work long and hard to be the best at that thing that gives them so much elation. But what happens after the athlete is done? When a circumstance comes up and they're no longer able to play that sport? Whether it's the high school athlete who doesn't get that scholarship to go to the next level, or the college athlete that doesn't get picked in the draft, or even the professional athlete who now has to retire and find something else to do day to day. Many athletes struggle with this transition from competition to regular everyday life. This transition causes trauma, and that trauma often leads to depression, anxiety, anger, and even health issues. Author Terry Robinson noticed this problem and researched it and came up with the book, Athlete Transition Stress. This book deals with the subconscious programming and conditioning that goes on in an athlete's mind while participating in a sport. So if you or anyone you know are dealing with these issues related to transitioning from a sport, pick up the book, Athlete Transition Stress, and share your story in our global community online at www.letgroup1.com. Athlete Transition Stress is available on Amazon.com and on the LET Group website at www.letgroup1.com.
Go. Hello, everyone. Yes, the book is Athlete Transition Stress. Everything that we've been talking about tonight and everything that we've been talking about in the last 8 episodes. Wow, 8 episodes. That's kind of getting to me a little bit. Man, we've been on the radio for a minute here. But, man, this book has been revolutionary, not only to just athletes, but we found that people who have been going through any type of transition, they've really kind of taken on a lot of the things that Terry's talked about within the book and actually applied them to their own lives. So look, go out to www.letgroup1.com and go check out all of the resources we have and purchase the book there. The book is also available on Amazon.com. Please go check it out, and then we would like to hear exactly what you think about the book, anything that has helped you with. Brian, I want you to go ahead and talk a little bit about your organization and what you do, because I think it's directly connected to some of the things that we're talking about here.
Thanks, Eric. Can you guys hear me well? I'm in the car driving, so I apologize.
No, we hear you just fine. Yeah, you sound good.
Hey, first of all, you talk about the book, Athletes Transition Stress, and to your point a little earlier about it's more than just about athletes. And one of the things that my organization, 308 Leadership, is about professional development and coaching and mentoring and consulting to executives, mid-career people, both from a corporate American perspective as well as entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I deal with, even my own personal life, is how to make that transition from being a college student to going into corporate America, leaving corporate America, transitioning between jobs in corporate America, as well as then becoming your own entrepreneur. And so all the things that Terry talks about in the book can be applied to not just from an athlete's perspective, but also from a entrepreneur or job perspective. So 308 Leadership App is the opportunity for us to continue to push the same concepts to everyone else. So again, Eric and guys, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on, talk about my organization, again, 308leadershipapp.com, where you can find more information about me and my 25 years experience in corporate America and how that helps people move forward. But again, I just want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be on the show, and I look forward to being on future shows with you guys.
Hey, Brian, by the way, before you go, we need that check in the mail. Thank you very much, because that plug was not free. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I got you.
All right. So yeah, hey,
right.
thanks a lot to our boy Brian. Man, we really appreciate him. Man, we've known him for years, Terry and I, and he went to college with us, and man, he's been down with us from day one. Terry, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to you because I want you to talk a little bit about your connection with Mr. Fitzgerald here and some of the stuff that we wound up doing when you made the visit to Connecticut.
Oh yeah, we had some really, I went to Connecticut to visit these guys and do some work, but it was more fun than work for me. It's always a pleasure to be around some good people, and that was definitely there. And we had some good spirited conversations. I wish I would have more time to talk to Mr. Fitzgerald G, because he don't know. I love Jamaica and everything about it, the culture and everything. So we never got a chance to really talk about that, but we'll get a chance to talk about that. But we were talking some good stuff, and he has a background in psychology, so that was a good thing because he already had an understanding. Most people that I talk to don't really have that background or don't have that much of an understanding outside of what we're doing here. So that made things that much more easier. Things a lot easier for him to digest, for me to digest, and for us to really put some good information out there. So we did a couple of interviews. We did one in the barber's chair, and then we did a panel discussion, and it was good material. G opened up his place for us. Man, doing good work. I was definitely impressed with his setup and just with him as an individual. He got his own line of products. We didn't even get, because we were so busy, we didn't get a chance to go through all that because I love it, man. And any way I can try to help and pump it up, that's what I want to do. So it was just a good time, and I felt like I was rushing my way through there. I was there for a couple of days, but I felt really like I was rushing, trying to get back. And the next time I come there, I'm planning a week, so we can really sit down and talk and get some things hashed out. So yeah. So G, it was a pleasure meeting you, man.
No, definitely, man. I felt like I had already known you because Eric was always talking about his boy Terry, and he spoke of you so much that I was like, okay, and E being my boy, I said, well, Terry cool like that, Terry my man too, and he began telling me about your book, and I'm actually a former athlete myself. I was on the boxing team, and I've always loved boxing, and I was telling Eric, some of my barbers, they have a video, this 24-year-old kid. I went outside when we put the boxing gloves on like we used to do in the early years. And,
right.
I'm telling them about, on Main Street, man, I was the knockout king. I've gone as far as, Philadelphia with the boxing team putting brothers on their bottoms. So, it's a number of years ago, about 6 years ago, brother was 40. And, I ain't going to lie, I was getting in them at first. But then the oxygens left my lungs, and the 16-ounce gloves became 25 ounces. My knees, when I was dipping and bobbing and weaving, my knees started to crook and crack. And, I looked, young boy, man, knocked me into the car, actually put a dent in the car. And, even after that, I said to the young boy, I was like, because we were outside and he had a lot of room to really run around, and I said if I had him in a squared circle, I could cut the ring off, and I know I could just knock him out. But then after reading your book and, just, listening to Eric talk about, your book and then actually reading it and realizing that, what, dude, you better transition because one of these young boys going to kill you out there. You running out there, throwing on the boxing gloves, and and the brothers were saying, they was like, oh man, for old head, man, you nice. But see, and I'm saying to myself, no, I was terrible based upon like my reflexes. My mind was saying hit him with a 3 or 4 piece combination, and I would look maybe 1.5 punch would come. And I was like, where are the other punches? You know, and just seeing that, you know, having aged and not realizing body can't do what it once did, but psychologically, you know, I was still believing. And my thing was I was willing to put money up to go in the ring with this young man. And I was saying to myself, a good thing that never happened because, like I said, the lungs ran out of air. So once I was winded, the fight was really over. You know, the fight was really over. And, you know, the thing is, if the young boy wanted, after he knocked me into the car, you know, I got my balance. I'm like, come on, I'm still ready. But, you know, I could have really gotten hurt out there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in life, we have to look at the psychology of how we see things. Because one thing that I said to Eric after reading the book, I said, man, this book can be applied to people. I mean, all aspects of life. Because when you talk about transitioning, you know, you have people that transition that haven't transitioned out of relationship. There's a young lady that was murdered the other day because a former boyfriend hadn't gotten over the fact that they had broken up. So he went back and he did the unthinkable. And again, transitional stress, you know, him transitioning to knowing that, okay, we're no longer together. You know, people lose jobs. You know, industries are no longer existing. And you have to know how to transition into something different. So when we talk about that book is a phenomenal book. And that's why we had so much fun. We had so much fun when we were filming. And I mean, it was an honor meeting you. And, you know, I hope that I wasn't, you know, my gregarious personality. Sometimes I can be overwhelming to people. And, you know, Dangerous Dan, I know he probably saw the video. And tell Dangerous Dan I meant no disrespect when we were talking about the haircut.
Dangerous Dan, he gone by now, man. He was an older cat back then. That was when I was young. So I'm sure he's not even walking the earth no more, man. So he's a free game.
Hey guys, we got another caller, man. I got to give this guy's respect, man, because he told me already. I already mispronounced Brian's name, so he already let me know, like, hey, man, don't mispronounce my name when you got problems. But this is the brother, man. Yeah, this is the brother. This is the brother, man, that I have known for years, man. We have done so much together on the charitable side, helping people all over the place, and he has been my boy, man. He's looked out for me through thick and thin, and I really, really appreciate him. And, you know, this is my man, and this is Danny Claypool. Danny, what's up, man? Thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Is Brian listening too?
No, he actually dropped off, so he must have knew.
Okay.
He must have known you were still calling in.
So, are these brothers part of your East Coast connection?
Hey, somewhat. Yeah, they are. They're my guys.
Don't let the East.
Oh, go ahead.
Don't let the East Coast get your brain twisted.
Hey Terry, what's up, man? Say what's up, Terry and Lance. Say what's up to my guy Danny, man.
Hey Danny, what's up, man?
It's a pleasure. Hey, I caught the beginning of the conversation. I don't know where you guys are with it right now, but you were talking about young ball players and the attitudes on the bench and those type of things. Are you guys still there? Or have you moved to something different?
No, go right ahead.
Go for it, man.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So you guys you're kind of on the right track, I think. But it's a business, okay? And in everything we do, we all have jobs. We all do everything. We're those same players except in a different arena. So we have dollar signs on our heads. You're as only as good as the numbers you bring in. And that's the same way with these kids. Unfortunately, I just don't think that as brothers, black or white, we just don't do enough to hit the root of the problem. And the root of the problem all stems back to education. And there I mean, we know Brother to Brother was fortunate to help Jabari boost his grades up to get into Duke on that academic scholarship. So with a kid like that on the bench, I got to go academic. Somebody let him pass based on the way he dribbled that ball. Obviously, he's got some academical problems. But there's some other issues out there that I just want to touch base on, and I think we really need to come together, not just on a phone call, but really pulling resources together. I think once in a lifetime, this opportunity with my friend Donald Trump in office is a great opportunity for us to take advantage of what he's been taking advantage of, and that's pulling ourselves together. I don't know and I just want your opinion on this, but this dollar is going to go away. I mean, the more and more I dig into it, the more we're in some serious trouble because the dollar is not backed by anything. It's no more worth any more than the paper that it's made on. And I really don't think that we're paying attention to the Cubans of the world who are saying there's going to be a big shift, and are you ready for that shift? I'm just curious, have you guys really started thinking about that?
Go ahead, Terry.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Did I lose you guys?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I thought I was sitting there talking. I was on mute. I apologize.
I was doing the same thing. I agree. There's a couple different areas we could go down there, but yeah, I think obviously, when we talk about the financial piece of it, especially in college sports, it does rule, and it does, it's a deciding factor in most decisions that are made at that level. As far as the dollar and, on a national basis, yeah, obviously the dollar is actually it's pretty strong right now when it comes to other currencies. But you're right, there's no gold or anything that backs the dollar. So obviously there will be a shift. But the thing that we've talked about over and over is one of the things that is always there for people, and especially entertainment, is sports. And through the good times and the bad times, people use sports to deal with or cope with, where they're at, how they're feeling, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty deep topic when you talk about that connection and stuff.
And I agree with you, but you're saying sports and people go to it, but only a certain caliber can go. I mean, right now the Bucks are building a stadium. Let me just tell you that the Coles did a great job of leaking that way before time. All that land around the stadium, I look at the stadium like it's Walmart, right? So whatever, because it's Walmart, so I'll take 20% who can't buy anything to eat in the stadium. They have to come outside of the stadium. But that's owned by millionaires. So who can afford to go to a game? You're talking about a class of people. So the people that we're talking about and want to help never get to that game. Mm-hmm. They never get there. So somebody's being left out.
But they do watch it on TV. They do find a way to watch it at a sports bar, at home, amongst their friends, because you can compete anywhere. Whether you have $10 or $100. You still got that competitive nature in you, and believe me, you're going to find a way to go watch that, whether it's not at the stadium or someplace else. But
then it becomes about education, wouldn't you say? Just to sit back and watch something doesn't produce anything, right?
No, in fact, it probably does the opposite. Because I think we learn a lot more by participation and through experience. But not everybody's afforded that opportunity. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. It's just a certain class of people have an opportunity to experience certain things, and that's based on your, how much money you have. And there's definitely truth to that.
Right, but at the end of the day, I would think, at least my goal is, how do you continue to reach back to where you came from to make that situation better. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hey, Terry. Terry, you there?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, Terry, I want you to attack this because I think he just brought the point up that that's one of the things that the LET group is all about, is educating people on exactly why they do what they do while they're playing the sport, and letting them know that a lot of those behaviors can not only help you with getting to the next level, but some of those behaviors can hurt you as well.
Yeah. Well, I think when you talk about big business and when you talk about athletes and elite athletes, I've seen this for years where they are disconnected with where they come from, and they've been told that this is where you need to be. You can't go back there and be here. That it's so obvious to me because most of us, when we do get to wherever that is, we don't go back. We don't go back because of fear. They create a fear in our head of our own people, sometimes our own families, and so you don't go back. So what you're saying, how do you reach back and go back? Well, we have to break down these barriers. We have to go into, stay connected to these communities, and that's a hard thing to do because you have this agent over here telling you can't go back over here. You need to be over here. You don't want to mess up your brand. I mean, it becomes about your brand. It don't become about your community or where you came from. So you have all these things going on. Say that again.
Or who helped you. I mean, Eric is a witness. I'm not going to shoot out any names, but let me just tell you something. Money changes people, okay?
Yeah.
You quickly get forgotten about what your whole purpose was to help them once they got there, to see that you were a legit source to continue that help. It's a sad situation, It's a really sad situation. You look at Duke. Look at all the boys that graduated from Duke. You mean to tell me all those cats that made it, can't nobody sit down and reach this young man? That's bullshit.
And he does need help.
Oh, this ain't FM radio. Can I play bullshit?
You sure can. Because we're trying to make
go
a
ahead,
difference.
guys. I mean, hey, by the way, we got about 7 minutes left, so we're going to have to wrap it up in a minute. But go ahead. Keep attacking this issue. We got about 7 minutes. Go ahead. Go ahead, T. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, but I think, as a Brother to Brother's been around, been doing this thing for 18 years, and nobody gets paid in my organization. We've been very successful. We have a huge golf outing. But the problem that I've seen in the 18 years, everybody's got the same thing as the church got. They got a me mentality. And really, all Brother to Brother is an umbrella for everybody to come under. And there's enough for everybody, but we just won't pool our resources. And it's the same way corporately, businessly. I mean, this is a great opportunity to be a minority-owned manufacturer. You come up with something to manufacture right now, and you're a minority-owned manufacturer, let me tell you, there's loot for you, a lot of it. But we can't come together. You know what I'm saying? Everybody want to do it by themselves, which is totally wrong. Totally wrong. And it really doesn't take that much more than a plan and $10,000 a man. And if you don't have $10,000 put away or more than that, you got serious more problems than the next brother you trying to help.
That's right.
Exactly. But the thing about that is that I think, Terry, you brought up a very good point, man. Is that who are you really listening to, and who's advising you? You know what I mean? What are you feeding into yourself? If you are listening to people who are selfish and all about themselves and saying, hey, you better get what you got to get while you can get it, then these types of topics and these types of thought processes will never enter your mind. You'll never even think about this type of stuff because all you'll ever be concerned about is getting more, having more, getting the bigger car, the bigger house, and those types of things, and you won't care about anybody else or anything else. But then in the long run, you might find yourself pretty lonely because, that's probably a pretty lonely place to be. And that's what usually happens to all of those athletes that you're talking about that came from places like Duke and places like that. And we can circle back to Grayson Allen. That could probably wind up being the thing that happens to him. Because, yes, he did act crazy. He did do some crazy things and do some stuff that was really out of control. But guess what? He's still a person, too. And somebody still going to need to reach out to him and say, hey, man, you know what? You was an idiot. You did some stupid stuff. But this is what you got to do to get back on your feet. And, you know, instead of just suspending him, to circle back to what Danny was saying, I ain't hear nothing about community service. I didn't hear anything about him going to feed the homeless. I didn't hear anything about that would help him to humble himself. So, you know, really, if he decided to go pro, right, guys, guess what? He's just a pro. And he really didn't get punished or help anybody else in the process.
Well, hold on. First of all, you don't get
about when we talk about things.
Well, he doesn't get to go pro, okay? He didn't make it in college. He's a head case. He's a head case.
Yeah.
He's still a head case.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Hey, we got about 3 minutes left, guys. I mean, this is a great conversation. We got about 3 minutes left, but what I want to do is in this 3 minutes is I want to kind of start shutting it down and closing it down. So, Lance, I'm gonna give you a minute to talk about a few things, and then Terry, you could go ahead and close them up.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. And I do appreciate that. And, you know, just making a point, the final point on that last thing. Yeah, I think the system is set up for a lot of times for the players to fail and, you know, the owners and the institutions to succeed. And honestly, there's a lot of money involved, and the higher you make it up, the more money you make. But sometimes it can be a trap. And you might be financially okay, but that doesn't mean you're mentally okay or you're really prepared to deal with life after. And that's why it'll be interesting to see what happens to a person like Ronda Rousey. You know, she was at the pinnacle of her career, and you know, she was built up by the media, by, you know, the fan base, by MMA. You know, anybody that could get her hands on her was willing to pay her because we built her up. You know what I mean? She was a champ. She was almost like a Mike Tyson situation where, you know, everybody thought she was invincible, unbeatable, and it was a must-see event. Now it'll be interesting to see, you know, after her last defeat last weekend, you know, what happens to Ronda. Does the media really care? Because, you know, they'd love to see a star or build somebody up, and then, you know, as soon as she makes a mistake or things don't go well for her, they're going to tear her down. And, you know, mentally that's a hard thing to handle in those situations. So definitely interested to see, and I think that's a story that we should continue to follow because, you know, I think that's almost like a case study of an individual that kind of went through the process, and now she's going to have a lot of different feelings to deal with, and I imagine depression will be one of them. So you know, that's my final thoughts on tonight's show. I'll let Terry and whoever else is on kind of share some of their thoughts.
Well, I know we're kind of running out of time, but you know, when I see these female MMA fighters, I'm always questioning something anyway. You know, to see them and how they look going in there fighting like they're gladiators, I'm thinking, like, what happened to these women, man? What happened to these females? Right in there beating each other to a pulp like that. I'll never get used to that. So I guarantee you she's going to feel some depression because she was out there getting something out that she needed to get out, and it just, you know, she ran out of time. And it's going to be interesting to see how she responds to the rest of her life, man, because I honestly believe for most people that do that kind of sport, there's some trauma involved, you know, and to see a female getting in there like that, you know, I just can't get used to it. I don't understand it. And so I can only imagine what that young lady has endured throughout her life.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that it's a natural thing.
Because what I'd like to see is, you know, how many more movies she gets, how many more commercials she gets now, because it was interesting under her profile, they put actress. But we'll see how good of an actress she is and see how many opportunities she gets because she isn't the champ no more. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how a superstar can go high and where she ends up at.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, hey, guys, this was a spirited show. We went to so many topics, so many great topics. Terry and Lance and Danny, because Danny, you still on. Thank you very much for calling in. We appreciate your insight. Terry and Lance, again, another great show. We're on episode 9. The next one is the 10th one. Man, who knew? Who knew we'd make it this far, right? 10 episodes. That's big time. So listen, I want to sign off. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank everybody for their support. And when you have an opportunity, please go out to the website, www.letgroup.com. Pick up Terry's book, Athlete Transition Stress. It's a great read. Also, check out the interviews that are out there with L. Fitzgerald Lester II. And just check out the things that we had an opportunity to talk about. Not only just with athletes, but just relevant events that's going on right now with everything that's happening. So with that being said, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Lifestwists show. When you have a chance, please check out our website at www.letgroup1.com and see all of the things that we'll be doing over the next several weeks. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.